Hello, everybody. I was halfway through, but I had some difficulties, so I am starting it all over. The verse of the day is already selected, and it is Revelation 21:4. So take two, action. I'm already on the verse, so it says the New Jerusalem. Okay, and this is Revelation. As I was saying in the other video, it's the last part of the book. It's the last book of the Bible. So it's just telling about predictions. It tells about what's to come, Jesus' return, things like that, in the whole book of Revelations, and people who have visions about the future. You can relate this to the Old Testament because in the Old Testament, people used to always have visions about Christ coming back and returning, and they didn't know how it was going to be, but they knew they just kept getting these visions from God, and all they can do is describe what they were seeing, and they didn't really know what it meant, but they knew that one was to come. So eventually Christ did come, of course, and proved all of those visions and prophecies about him correct. And this is where we're at in Revelations. It's telling you all these future prophecies and giving you all these things that are possibly are supposed to come in the future. And we're in this present time, even now, Christians and believers in Christ, we're still waiting on these things to happen because they haven't happened yet. But the day that they do happen, everybody's going to be amazed, just like, and some people won't even take notice of it, just like when Jesus actually came, nobody really took notice of it. And Jesus had to go around and prove himself pretty much that he was the Son of God. But even after all those years that people were waiting for him to arrive and to come, nobody was ready for him when he got there. And that's the same thing with what will happen in the future. Because people walking around just because it hasn't happened yet, we have a lot of doubts. We're wondering, oh, is this really true? Can I really believe this? It sounds impossible. But God is the God of possibilities. So if God said it, just believe it and leave it at that. And he'll prove himself true in no time. So we'll just get to it. It's Revelations 21. The specific verse was 21:4. Um, and it says, the New Jerusalem. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The first heaven and the first earth had disappeared. Now there was no sea. And I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. It was prepared like a bride dressed for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne. It said, now God's home is with people. He will live with them. They will be his people. God himself will be with them and will be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, sadness, crying, or pain. All the old ways are gone. The one who was sitting on the throne said, look, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this because these words are true and can be trusted. The one on the throne said to me, it is finished. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give free water from the spring of the water of life to anyone who is thirsty. All those who win the victory will receive all this, and I will be their God and they will be my children. But those who are cowards, those who refuse to believe, those who do terrible things, those who kill, those who sin sexually, those who do evil magic, those who worship idols, and those who tell lies, they will have they will all have a place in the lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. One of the seven angels came to me. This was one of the angels who had the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues. The angel said, come with me, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. The angel carried me away by the Spirit to a very large and high mountain. The angel showed me the holy city, Jerusalem. The city was coming down out of heaven from God. The city was shining with the glory of God. It was shining bright like a very expensive jewel, like a jasper. It was clear as crystal. The city had a large, high wall with 12 gates. There were 12 angels at the gates. On each gate was written the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. The walls of the city were built on 12 foundation stones. On the stones were written the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. The angel who talked with me had a measuring rod made of gold. The angel had this rod to measure the city, its gates, and its wall. The city was built in a square. Its length was equal to its width. The angel measured the city with the rod. The city was 12,000 stadia long, 12,000 stadia wide, and 12,000 stadia high. The angel also measured the wall. It was 144 cubits high. The angel was using the same measurement that people use. The wall was made of jasper. The city was made of pure gold, as pure as glass. The foundation stones of the city walls had every kind of expensive jewels in them. The first foundation stone was jasper, the second was sapphire, the third was chalcedony, the fourth was emerald, the fifth was onyx, the sixth was carnelian, the seventh was yellow quartz, the eighth was beryl, the ninth was topaz, the 10th was chrysoprase, the 11th was jacinth. Did you hear that thunder? I like that it's about to rain. But anyway, back to the word. And the 12th was amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each gate was made from one pearl. The street of the city was made of pure gold, as clear as glass. I did not see a temple in the city. The Lord God all-powerful and the Lamb were the city's temple. The city did not need the sun or the moon to shine on it. The glory of God gave the city light. The Lamb was the city's lamp. The peoples of the world will walk by the light given by the Lamb. The rulers of the city will bring their glory into the city. The city's gates will never close on any day because there is no night there. The greatness and the honor of the nations will be brought into the city. Nothing unclean will ever enter the city. No one who does shameful things or tells lies will ever enter the city. Only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life will enter the city. And that's the whole verse, the whole section of Revelation 21. So to summarize this, it's just a vision. In Revelations, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's giving us lots of visions, lots of information about what should be coming in the future, and it's just telling us what to look out for. And before the end of the book closed, God decided, hey, I'll give them a little picture of what is to come in the future. I won't just rob them of the whole idea. I'm gonna let them see what is to come, or give them a little example of what's to come in the future. Just a little hint, a little clue, like I used to do in the Old Testament when I was predicting that Jesus would come. So I'll give them a prediction, a little depiction of how Jesus will return, and just let them feed off of that until he returns. So this is what this is. A man, I don't know who it is. I think one of the disciples maybe. I don't know. I have to go back and look. Someone named John maybe. I don't know. Something's telling me John. I don't know why, but it's someone who has a vision, and it's written in the last book of the Bible, and he's just telling you, oh, I had a vision that God gave me, and you know that God gave it to him because it's recorded in the Bible. Many people can have many visions, but that doesn't mean that it's God given. But you can count on this one because it's written in the Bible. And God says in Revelations that there's nobody going to be able to add to this book or take away from it. He has what he wants to put in his word. He has it written down. So what we're reading is true. There are other books and other writings that have to do with God, but um those aren't included in the Bible, but these have made it. But anyway, God God is saying that he tells this man a vision. He's trying to tell you pretty much in summary what heaven's going to be and what's to come in the future. It's saying one day Jesus is going to return. God's going to in some way do away with the current structure of the world and bring into existence a new city, a new place. Pretty much it's like going in reverse. God likes to do things repetitively over history. So the place that was created from the jump, from the very beginning, what we call the place Eden, where Adam and Eve were living at, where they got to pretty much, they didn't have to do much of anything. They just had to take care of the animals and just hang around or whatever and just live life beautifully. And the only thing God asked them to do was to obey him, and they chose not to do that. So this is what happened at the beginning will also happen at the end. This is the same thing. We're on this earth. This is where, in the beginning, okay, there was this Garden of Eden where Adam and Eve stayed at. And they got thrown out of that garden because they were disobedient. They had one thing to not do and they chose to do it. So that's disobedience against God. And ever since then, they've been cast out of that garden. And we're all on this earth because of that. And now we have to plant seeds and work for our food. When they were in Eden, they were just given the food. It wasn't anything to them. They didn't have to do anything. So, but now they're on earth and we're descendants of them and we we have all this sin backed up in our lives because of that first step of disobedience by them. So we're all descendants of Adam and Eve, and we're all have that sinning in our DNA pretty much. So what started from the beginning is what's at the end. God made this whole plan so we can finally get back to the end where we're back in the Garden of Eden. And that's the depiction here where that garden is coming down out of the sky. Wherever it was at, it's going to be in that same place, and God's going to bring it back to existence where we're able to access it. And it talks about the second death in there. Let me go to it to read the specific thing. It says pretty much it's the judgment day. It's where everybody just come, you face your maker, you meet your maker, and it's time for you to choose, for him to tell you what, you know, what your life has brought forth. And like I said before in many videos, it's not God that's casting you to hell or anything like that, because it's your own self. If you have no spirit, if you God is spirit, so he's relating in spirit. In your lifetime, if you're going around feeding your spirit with good things and beneficial things and godly things, then your spirit is open and developed and growing. But if you have not opened your spirit and aren't feeding it anything, you're gonna feed it something. It's gonna either be good things you're feeding it or bad things. So if you're choosing to feed your spirit nothing but negative, killing, lying, and all this other stuff, like it's saying here, then God is not God's not the one forcing you to go to hell or anything like that. You obviously put yourself there yourself because these are the things you like to do. God likes to do good things, so that's what God's about. Just like when you pick your friends, if you are about doing positive things, doing good things in the world, giving back, spreading the message of God, you're probably going to find people who like to do that too. But if you're all about negative, you're going to try to hang around those who are ready to rob, steal, you plotting on somebody else, you getting together to do the worst. That's the kind of company you choose to hang around. God didn't put you anywhere. He gave you the option to do better, but if you continue to do worse and do your own thing, then he has no choice but to put you where you want to be. So that's what it says. I'll read this section where it's talking about a second death. And the second death is God's actual sorting of us. When he gets all of us in front of him to give out judgment and to get ready to share what's going to happen with the rest of our life for eternity, where we'll spend eternity at, he's going to be sorting. Those who were on my team who were brave enough to stand up for me on the earth, no matter if they were got ridiculed or killed for it or banished or embarrassed or whatever, all those people who represented me and who had a life that was trying to be godly, they're going to be sorted over here. And those who did the opposite are sorted over there. And everybody sorted over there gets what you wanted. That's the kind of life you live. So obviously God's a good God, so he gives you what you want. But I'll read this. It says, "The one on the throne said to me, 'It is finished. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give free water from the spring of the water of life to anyone who is thirsty. All those who win the victory will receive all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. But those who are cowards, those who refuse to believe, those who do terrible things, those who kill, those who sin sexually, those who do evil magic, those who worship idols, and those who tell lies, they will all have a place in the lake of burning sulfur, in other words, hell. And this is the second death.'" In the second death, there's pretty much no coming back from it. It's just an eternal judgment. It's a judgment to say where you're going, and that's where God puts you at. How you live your life is where you're gonna be set at. So that's the reason to come to Christ and get forgiveness and change your life and start doing better, because this life on this earth is short, but eternity is for eternity. And there's no coming out of that, not that I know of. Um, God is a merciful God. He might one day say, you've had enough punishment, come up here with me. But that's for him to say. I don't see that anywhere in here. He's just saying that when it's judgment day, time's up. It's time to decide where you're gonna be. Um, so that's that part. And that's what it's saying. In summary, it's saying this new Jerusalem, and they're calling it a new Jerusalem because when God came on, it's so much to put in this. It's kind of hard to. Okay, it's bouncing back and forth between Old Testament, New Testament, and everything. So let me try to make this the most clear. Okay, the beginning of this is the whole title of it is called the New Jerusalem. You know, want to know why it's called the New Jerusalem? Because the old Jerusalem is where God first tried to start um, the plan of salvation. Let's say it like that. Um, from the beginning, let's go ahead and go through history. From the beginning, Adam and Eve, they they are disobedient to God. So obviously God, if you're disobedient to God, that means you're serving someone else. And God is going to give you that separation that you ask for with your disobedience. So they're separated from God. They're put on earth to toil the ground. They have to work for their food, which they didn't have to do that before. And they're having descendants and descendants. But God still has a desire to relate to the people that he made. He knows they're not perfect, so he's gonna find a plan. He has a plan already written out from the beginning. He already knows how this whole story is gonna end. So he's just letting it go along by piece by piece by piece, as far as finding someone on the earth named Abraham who had a good relationship with him. And like I said this before, many people like to argue about was Jesus black, was he this, was color. If you're worried about color, then that's nothing spiritual. Your spirit is no color. Spirit is just spirit. That's it. It's a image of Jesus Christ. It's a bond with God. That's where your spirit is. It's there to communicate with God and open yourself up to God. And so it doesn't matter who it was picked. It could have been someone in Africa, but it wasn't. It was someone God found that he could relate to and talk to, and who was receptive of him. So he was with Abraham, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna make you father of nations." Okay, there it goes. Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob. Jacob's name is turned into Israel, which is Jerusalem, pretty much. Israel is Jerusalem. Okay, so you've got three people. Abraham's told that, and I'm going to try to keep this short, but this is just the whole summary of the Bible so we can get to the point of Revelation, the end of the Bible. Abraham is told, "You're going to be father of nations by God." He accepts that. He has Isaac. Isaac has a child named Jacob. Jacob, God comes and pretty much relates to him and talks to him personally and tells him, "Your name is no longer Jacob. Your name is now Israel, and you will have many descendants or whatever." So Jacob, his name is turned to Israel. Israel has 12 kids, and those 12 kids represent 12 tribes of Israel. And as time goes by, there's a separation where people separate parts of Israel because all the people of, like I said, Israel had 12 kids, and from then on, the people of Jacob, Israel, they're named the Israelites. They're named Israel. So all these descendants, they're going on, they're having generation after generation, they're all having kids and growing up and whatnot. So all of these people are called the Israelites. And they come to a point in the Bible where they have to be separated. And Israel is separated into a section called Jerusalem, and also I think the other section was Judah or Benjamin. But it's like two or three sections it's separated into, but they're all they're called the Israelites altogether, but Jerusalem is like the main part of Israel. So that's why this story is called the New Jerusalem. That was the old Jerusalem. And God put his hand on those people, and he meant for them to exist so that they can be an influence to the world. He came there and showed himself and wanted to exist around the people. If you notice when I was reading today, there was a part where it gave so many a specific a specific description of how the city would be built and its gates and stuff like that, and it was telling you, oh, the city was 12,000 stadia long and all this other stuff, 144 cubits high. That's the same image of how God was doing way back in the Old Testament when all these people, the Israelites, were when Moses pulled them out of slavery, out of Egypt, and delivered them back into their land that God had designated for them. When Moses brought those people to Israel to live there, the Israelites in Israel, then he wanted to exist around them. So he had them build a tent. And he gave specific instructions, just like in this, like do 5,000 cubits this way and put two angels here. And it was just a impose specific things, just like any king would do. If you had a king, they know how their kingdom wants to look, and they're going to do everything to make their kingdom look perfect. And that's what kind of God he is. He's specific to the point, and he likes everything beautiful, and he likes the sparkling, and he likes the gold and the silver to be around where he's at, because it's just beautiful things, just like we like beautiful things. Many women like diamonds or whatever. That probably is in your DNA from God, because he likes beautiful things like that. You can tell, because that's how he tells people to build his stuff. But anyway, Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob. Jacob's name is turned to Israel. The Israelites get taken into captivity by Egypt for years and years and years. Finally, Moses comes in with God's power and is able to lead them across the Red Sea into their actual land of Israel. And they go on and they're disobedient and they're obedient and they're disobedient, and God's trying to live around them, but they keep disobeying God. So he can't take that. Finally, he just backs off out of the tent that he asked them to build, which I was just talking about. He asked them to build a tent with so much specific, put this here, put that there, put angels here, put diamonds or whatever sparkly things there, and he was trying to exist around them in that tent where they could actually send a priest in to talk to him and get answers for their problems, and he'd be there just so that he can be an influence. The Israelites can be influenced to all of the world. So because if you look around and see one place has God in their life, and he's actually helping them win wars, and he's helping them grow, and he's helping them financially and everything, you're going to start to think, hey, that must be the real God, because he's actually active. I'm over here serving this stone figure, and this thing is doing nothing for me. I'm having all kind of bad luck. What's so good about what they're doing over there that they get all these blessings? Oh, it's because they have a real God who has built his tent to exist in their presence. So that was the hope that God had, although he knows the beginning from the end. That was the hope that he would have, that that would happen. But instead, the Israelites would find themselves getting jealous of other nations' stone statues that weren't doing anything. And they were like, oh, we want statues like that. We want kings like they have. We want to sacrifice our babies like other people do, and that kind of stuff. So God was like, you're not even listening to me. All you're trying to do is equal yourself to those other nations, other people, and I'm trying to lift you way behind above that. You're far beyond that. You're better than that, but you want to stay on a little level and look over there and say I'm jealous of what they got when I'm trying to give you everything plus more for free. So of course, you know how I know how it is, and I'm sure plenty of you out there know how it is to instill yourself into something so much and then not get a return on your investment. So eventually, you just back off of it. You're like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm done investing in something that's not giving me a return. And that's just economics, basic in economics. Nobody wants to keep giving and giving and giving, and you're not getting anything back. But God's better than economics, because he still loves and cares for them. He does this. He backs off and lets them get their consequences. If you want to sacrifice to their gods, if you don't want me around, that's fine. I don't have to give you the blessings that I wanted to give you, but you're going to be missing out. And that's what eventually happens to the Israelites, as they always become disobedient and do their own thing and make God his release his presence out of their vicinity. Then they always find themselves in trouble. They're going in a war and they're being destroyed, or they're being carried away, or uh, imprisoned or anything. And that's when they break down and say, oh God, it was better when we had you. Please come back. Please save us. And when they really repent in their hearts, then God always comes back. He's always there to come back and pick them up. But it's always just the same thing. It's a whole cycle through all these years where God's with the Israelites, then they disobey him, and then God backs off to give them over to their own sins and their consequences and their karma. And then they have to beg for him to come back, and he accepts their prayers and he saves them and punishes the nations that it captured them or whatever. Even up to this day, like I said in the previous video, you can even see it. The most recent time was probably like during Hitler, where all those Israelites got just murdered. But eventually, in the end, it was the people of Germany or Hitler who was getting punished. Even up to this day, they still are searching for anybody who has anything to do with that. And I just recently saw, like a month or two ago, this man who was some kind of accountant or bookkeeper who was in the Holocaust. He was a bookkeeper for the Germans, and I think they took him to jail, and he's like 70 or 80 or something. So punishments, if you're found at any time, even up to today, if you found that you were any part of that Holocaust, people are taking you to jail so you can be punished. So that's just God. He'll back off, give you over to your sins, and then when you cry out to him and repent, then he's ready to come and rescue you. And those who punished you will be actually punished. It doesn't matter if they were getting away with it at one time. God's punishment can catch up with you and give you what you deserve. So, with all that said, um, Israelites, they just go ahead and go through life with the same routine up until the time of Jesus. They're still doing this back and forth routine. And Jesus comes and just comes with a new message, not to give, not to throw away the old laws and things that they were going by, but to show them the new message, and the new focus is on love and everything.